So, welcome everyone. I'm Alexander Mihalcea, and today we're joined by Suraj Chawla, CEO and co-founder of GPUnet. Thank you for being here. Before we dive in, could you give us a quick overview of what GPUnet does?
Yeah, sure. GPUnet is a full stack AI protocol. We have our own blockchain. We have a layer of aggregated compute, basically GPUs. We also have tokenized GPUs. That's the third layer. And finally, we have the application layer, which is the subnets. So anyone can build a business and they can use AI, but GPUs will be embedded in that AI functionality. So, in short, that's GPUnet. Why does it matter for the AI world? So, I always say, um, I think I can go deep. Yeah, Alex.
Right, right.
Yeah, so I always say, as we saw a lot of motorization happening, right? We used to walk and then we had these cars or even our kitchen utensils. Okay, a lot of everything got motorized. Okay, mechanical labor started moving to machines and oil was the fuel for that, right?
Right.
Oil, every factory started needing oil. Now, in the present era, the 2000s, we'll see a lot of intellectual labor will be motorized. Okay.
Hmm.
And this is where all of this will need a lot of GPUs. Okay. So when people think AI, it's not some magical thing that's going to create a civilization and rule over us. That might happen. But the first thing that AI will be, it will be start doing a lot of routine tasks, like maybe it can start doing cooking for you. You know, the
Right.
the the minimal brain that we use while cooking, we don't use a lot of brain while cooking, right? We know there are certain steps: take the egg, break it,
Right.
put salt, blah blah. All of this can be done by AI. Or when you're driving, again, we use very minimal brain while we are driving, so it's a perfect use case for AI. And today we are seeing self-driving cars already, so that's a very good example. So a lot of these intellectual labor will be motorized, and then GPUs will be the oil that will fuel this AI
Hmm.
era for the next 200 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fascinating. And what inspired you to create GPUnet? Was there a specific moment or experience that sparked this journey?
So, like, why did we create this?
Yeah, yeah. So, what inspired you to create this?
Yeah, yeah. So we were actually not building GPUnet. We had a company called BrahmGAN where we were building 3D generative AI.
Hmm.
Okay, it's like Chat GPT. It's 1D. It's text. Then Mid Journey or image. Nowadays, people
Mm.
generate images using AI. That's
Okay.
2D. And imagine 3D, where basically you can generate a whole game, right? You type something like I'm walking in a room and it's immediately created, and you can actually
Yeah.
walk in that room, or maybe a Taj Mahal, or maybe on top of the pyramids. That is 3D generative AI. And while we were building that, we realized we needed a massive number of GPUs, like millions of GPUs that nobody had on the planet when we were doing this in 2022. Okay, so we had a side project where, because we need a lot of GPUs, we used to pool GPUs, like 4 or 5 big companies. They put their idle capacity, and then we will use, or some other startups. There were like 500. There was a group of 500 startups in India who were using it, and suddenly there was this GPU shortage all across the planet,
Hmm.
and people started liking that community pooling platform. And in fact, the CDAC, which is like a Center for Development of Advanced Computing in India, the guys who build supercomputers, kind of the Bell Laboratories of India, they had like 500 of these GPUs and they put it on our network, and that's where it really got famous. People started talking about it. A lot of crypto influencers like Alex Becker, Virtual Bacon, all of these guys actually reached out to us. They invested in our company, and then that became as a big thing, and we rebranded to
Interesting.
GPU.net. So, in
Okay.
fact, our domain name also was bought by Virtual Bacon, and he gave it to
Okay.
us.
Okay. Okay. And What is your background before starting this venture?
So I probably have a many thousand year of background before my present birth. If I have to believe that, I believed I was a photon traveling in the universe. Till the time it came, I was passing by the earth and my mom pulled me into her womb because she wanted a boy, probably. But after coming here, I think I'd always been a very studious guy, wanted to do science, I did physics, I did research, went to Germany also, did very deep in research. And that's where I realized that it is too much research and it's not making sense anymore. Like I was pursuing dark energy. That was my theoretical astrophysics research topic. And just like the Large Hadron Collider, we realized that we need a very, very large instrument to sit around the sun that will cost $1 trillion. And this is back in 2010. Okay, that will cost $1 trillion to even know a little bit more of which theory fits dark energy. Okay. And I said, okay, I get this, I get this. But humanity is far, far away from doing that today. Okay.
Right.
If we had that $1 trillion, we'll probably 100 better things to put it on. Someday we'll reach there, we'll probably find more and it will give us infinite energy or something. But not right now. Okay, it's not
Mhm.
something we do right now. And then what do we do? So we have to make the present technology on the planet better using the science we know. And that's how I started my entrepreneurship career. I did first startup which failed, did second startup, got a small exit, almost saved my name from failing. I worked with Swiss government. I worked with another crypto company called Router Protocol as the head of partnerships where it got backed by Coinbase. And then finally, there was a point where I said, okay, I have had enough savings now. I can go and do something on my own.
Right. Right. That's really great. And let's go back to when you first started. What major challenges or gaps did you see in the market that made you think this needs to be solved?
Yeah, so shortage of compute was a big problem. You know, um, the GPUs that so imagine a developer, who needs a lot of these GPUs and they are stuck to using AWS or Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure. They have these GPUs. First of all, they're very expensive. Like they charge like $10 per hour. Okay, if you know the team, they can talk and negotiate. You can
Yeah.
book the annual price. Maybe you can get it down to $6 per hour. Still very expensive. And the secondly, the availability is low. So you have to really like know the right people, get them convinced, and there was a lot of kind of political mafia happening around it. There were sanctions placed on certain people who could not use it or whatever. And that's where we came in. So we started working directly with data centers. It's not just Amazon, they have their GPUs, but many other data centers, very good ones, such as NTT, which is a Japanese conglomerate. They have their data centers. Then we have Yota, which is India's biggest GC. Then we have Northern Data. Then we have G42, which is there in UAE. So pretty big groups. We have a pretty huge. So in the last 2 years, we worked up our supply. Today, we have more than 50,000 GPUs available on the platform. And they all basically put it on our DApp, which is a decentralized aggregator. Okay, kind of think of it as
Right.
an Airbnb of GPUs, right?
Okay.
And yeah, and then it started working, I think. So these large data centers, their idle, they utilize, and people got an access to a lot of these GPUs. In India, we were a part of a startup program called NASCOM, which is a government initiative. It has more than 10,000 startups. When we told guys, we have these GPUs available with us, immediately I think we got some 50, 70 startups using it. And we knew that this is a real problem and so many people who want the solution right away.
Okay. That's interesting. And could you elaborate on why the existing solutions weren't meeting these needs?
With solutions.
Yeah, so the existing solutions weren't meeting these needs.
Yeah. So basically, as I told, AWS and all these guys, they are basically centralizing the supply, right? And we were decentralizing the supply. And because they were centralizing, they were charging so high, $10 per GPU. And because we could decentralize it, we could actually give it for $3 per hour. In fact, for some of the largest orders, we have done even $2 per hour. That's like a massive, massive saving. So imagine someone is spending $1 million on their GPU AWS cost a year. On GPUnet, they'll probably spend 250K or maybe 3K max. Yeah. So
Right.
that's the real big saving. Okay. Of course, it doesn't make sense for very small developers because they'll have to do a lot of work to move their setup from their existing backend to here. Okay. We have made it as simple as possible, but still sometimes they get credits and whatnot. So it doesn't make so much sense. But the moment you run out of credits and you're graduating as a startup which has a lot of AWS cost, then you start thinking, okay, can I move to GPUnet? Can I start using their GPUs and I can really make more than half of the savings?
Right. Right. So, walk us through GPUnet addresses these challenges. What makes your approach unique?
Yeah, I won't call it so unique. It's a very big problem. And the more people who are doing, the blockchain part does make it unique. Okay. Because it is decentralized, the trustworthiness of the platform is way higher.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you talk to potential clients, for example, what's the biggest misconception they typically have about what you do?
I don't know. I typically get clients at the last stage of the conversation where
Okay.
I'm closing the deal or discussing the numbers with them. I should probably ask this to a lot of. We just have two sales guys, so I should probably ask them. I don't know to
Okay.
be honest.
And beside that, could you share a specific success story of a client who saw significant results using your solution?
Yeah, so there is SF Compute. Okay, so they had spoken to us. They do a very good job. A lot of startups in the Silicon Valley actually take their compute from SF Compute. And this was, I think, last year when we were talking to them, and they basically had a requirement of 500 GPUs. And there are a lot of guys who had this, and they needed it for training. So it didn't matter if the GPUs are in US or in India or wherever. Okay, and we were able to connect them with one DC in India, which gave us the lowest cost on the planet at that moment. Okay, so SF Compute even serves Princeton University for their training requirements. So pretty prestigious. I think they have built a very good brand, and yeah, we were happy to kind of bring them that compute capacity.
Okay, I see. And looking at the broader industry, what key trend are you seeing emerge?
We are in the AI world. There is a trend upcoming every week nowadays. So it's very difficult to say NL. I think, yeah, AI usage is going to grow more, certainly. Okay. GPUs are going to get more in the daily life, just as we have CPUs, right? Today
Right.
we have CPUs in our phone. Basically, a phone is a computer. Trump says everything is a computer. Your laptop, basically everything which is a computer will have a GPU.
Okay.
So that's a big trend. And yeah, we are here to kind of decentralize that entire industry offering. That's a very interesting side, and I'll tell you something more interesting. Out of the questions, I was talking with someone just this morning, very early morning in India, and I think it was night in New York or something. But that person actually advises the White House on entire things, data centers and compute across the nation. We are discussing and we are telling, okay, guys, basically GPUnet wants to make, as you said, right? What's unique, right? We said we are permissionless, right? That is to access compute here. you don't need to have a permission, or you don't need to know who you are, right? In the centralized world, there's a lot of sanctions, there's a lot of KYC. Okay, here, as long as your wallet and that has the money, you can use the compute. Okay, so it's like a true liberal form of compute. Okay, that's out there, and he did not like the idea. Okay, he's like, okay, but what if someone uses his computer? I'm like, that's the point. That is the point. The point on the platform is to create a permissionless state where it is not controlled by the politics. Okay. I mean, I can go way deeper, but basically, you think of it as there is some politics happening between US, Ukraine, and Russia, and US says Russia is bad, so US says,
Right.
okay, I'll now cut you off in my banking ecosystem, right? Maybe I'll cut off you from the oil industry as well. The same kind of impact is going to come to the compute industry. Okay, because compute industry is slowly and slowly becoming like an energy or a oil industry. As I
Right.
said,
Right.
GPUs are the new oil, and they matter, and US did this. So they stopped exporting Nvidia GPUs to China, and they also put a lot of restrictions in neutral trade territories such as UAE. That there's still restrictions on UAE getting GPUs, the good ones, by data center grade GPUs. I
Yeah.
think only G42 has that permission that they'll get the GPUs and they'll not give it to someone who is Chinese or of that origin.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, that still happens. It still happens. People set up Singapore entities, whatnot, maybe Malaysian entities.
Yeah.
Different, they still get the GPUs, they take delivery. Many things happen. But there are these sanctions, that is a fact. Okay. And our idea is if the world is getting more and more multipolar, okay, the basic commodities like internet or compute, okay, this should still remain independent, right, out of the
Right.
influence of one political party or whatever. Okay, and that's what is the big idea behind GPUnet. Okay, of course it's not just GPUs, there's a lot of layers to it. There's a blockchain so that we ourselves don't become that guy controlling the power of GPUs. So blockchain is run by more than 300 public validators chain today. Then there is a compute which also comes from many different providers. It's not just one. Okay. Then there's a tokenization. So when I say tokenization, there is a layer where people can, just like you have futures for commodities or oil, right?
Right.
People buy barrels of oil in advance or whatever. There is that layer, and that is very good for business. Okay, because when someone is buying an oil future of April or May or June, the oil companies actually know that they have to produce this much oil.
Yeah.
Okay, or if they don't produce and the prices go high and there is a nice supply and demand. But this is very important because same in GPU, if the world needs 2x capacity or even 20% extra capacity in April, there's not going to be 20% extra capacity suddenly, right? The planet has, let's say, a million GPUs today. Okay, it takes heavy investment, almost power plant scale of planning. Okay, to set up, to buy these GPUs. There's a big waiting period to set up the entire data center, to get that level of power connections, setting up the networking within these GPUs. It takes a lot of time. Okay. So knowing the future forecasting of the demand is very crucial for the industry to mature. Okay. There can be big investments when there is a certainty of return.
Yeah.
Okay. Banks come in, finances come in, loans come in, so many factors. That is today happening in the traditional way, but in the future it will happen via the tokenized layer. That's a tokenized. And finally, we have the application layer where a lot people like you and me, okay, like we are not consuming a lot of GPUs like ChatGPT or DeepSeek
Yeah.
or these big projects, right? Or Claude. But even people like us might need one, two GPUs, and we might not even have the bandwidth to go and rent a GPU from GPUnet or this or that. But you can come and build your products without having like the AI, the GPU is embedded right there. So that's the
Hmm.
application layer where you focus on creating your business and your revenue, and whatever AI you need or GPU need comes right there
Yeah,
itself
that's
as you need.
interesting. Yeah. And for example, how are these trends affecting how businesses operate in your space?
You are talking of the AI trend in general.
Yeah.
Again, very difficult. But okay, so we belong to two industries. One is AI, one is more crypto, very deep crypto. Okay, so let me talk more deep crypto side of it. So, what is gonna happen with AI is that people who were doing intellectual labor, okay, will get replaced very fast.
Okay.
Okay. For example, I'm just trying to think of a very good analogy for okay. Let's look at this. So I gave the example of 1800s, right? People were sewing their clothes in 1800s. We used to have these sewing machines where people would say they'll paddle and they'll
Hmm.
move
Okay.
and the stitching will happen. Okay. Today, a lot of that is automated. Okay, so a lot of those jobs went away back then. Right, the whole factory scale of things moved to bigger and faster machines, which were cheaper also. Today, now this is a very deep question. A developer. Let's do this calculation. Entry level developer. Call it a front end or back end or full stack developer, or even an AI developer. Just entry level, and I'm saying Bangalore, which is the
Okay.
developer hub of India. I think there are more than 5 million developers in the city. Okay. Uh, Entry level, you can get it for like $500 per month. Okay. This is the entry level.
Interesting.
Okay. And typical developers are humans. They learn, they do things, they come to office, they commute to office, there's traffic. Maybe they come from 9 to 5, maybe they'll ask for a hike, maybe they'll ask for a pay, maybe they'll have something. Now people could go and rent a GPU, which is an H100. Okay. 100, as I was telling you, we can do it for the lowest, we can do it for $2 per hour. Okay. And I can make it do write a lot of code or do whatever, right? Just like a manager will go and tell a developer, hey, make me this website, make me do this, do testing for me, all that. You can go and tell your GPU to do that, and it actually works fine. And it is better than an entry level coder
Yeah.
today. The difference is $2 per hour. That means it costs $1,500 a month. Okay, it is still 3x expensive. This I'm talking about Bangalore. What about Germany? Or what about Portugal? Or what about Dubai? The rates of a developer, entry level developer here are
Crazy.
$1,500.
Yeah.
What about actually Germany is more? So, what about Germany? What about New York? What about San Francisco? The entry level developer rates here are probably $3,000. This so already it has started to getting an impact, hitting an impact there. It
Yeah.
is
Right.
hitting the people with the highest pay right now, but it is very likely that in the next 2 years, I mean, people like DeepSeek keep coming, right? DeepSeek was actually 10x more efficient in their use of GPUs than ChatGPT.
Really.
So what if I go and say, okay, now I can run 8 developers in a single GPU, and then it becomes that, and let's say the price of GPUs goes up because everyone wants it. Yeah, so there's $4 per hour, but you're running 8 developers, so you have $3,000, but you are now paying only 400 or $350 per developer per month. That
Yeah.
would be a very interesting point for this, where suddenly 5 million developers, and this is only in India, right? So many devs in Malaysia, so many developer country communities. It's actually there in Ukraine, Portugal, a lot of these European places as well. Suddenly they are at risk. Okay. So this is the big question. How is it going to happen? And actually, there is a big debate on Twitter happening over the last 2 weeks. So it's called vibe coding, right? A senior dev can take these tools and do the job of three devs, or even a junior dev can do now the job of a senior dev. And
Right.
because these tools are available,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you rent them for $20 a month or something like that. Okay, maybe it's $50 a month. The cost of subscription to these platforms. And one sec, sorry. So people are debating. I mean, can people just vibe code their way through, and then we
Right.
don't need so much of it to actually get it done? So it's an open debate. There's ways and cons, and in fact, over time, people will become worse at coding.
Yeah.
So humans today are very bad at lifting logs and carrying it, or walking large distances. The reason is because we have motor cars do
Right.
that, right? So our ability to code might actually go down in the next 50 years or 100 years, and the AI's ability will keep growing more. Now, the positive side to this is I call it intellectual labor, just that was mechanical labor. And because we got freed from having to walk so large distances, we could focus on doing other tasks like creating nuclear energy or doing some
Yeah.
international politics. I don't know it's good or bad. Okay. The same way, here a lot of intellectual labor, which is like whenever you are setting a company, you need to take care of the compliance, you need to do an accounting, you need to have an HR, then you need to have a front end developer, a back
Yeah.
end developer. These are, I said, four basic things, right?
Yeah.
Now you don't need. Now your AI can do your accounting, your HR, your front end, your back end, so that you can go and focus on the main thing.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Intellectual labor is certainly going to reduce. This will displace a lot. We could go in a very positive future where we are doing other things. Maybe we are all relaxing, but I don't see that is kind of our nature. Hopefully, a lot of us will do something better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe use this AI to solve the dark energy problem, which I couldn't 15 years ago.
So, what do you think most business owners are getting wrong when they're trying to address this specific problem?
I think many of the first time founders or second time founders get caught up in the basics of setting up a business. Could be setting up their
Okay.
company or getting their employees and whatnot, and end up missing the most important point, which is getting revenue.
Okay. And
That fundamental has not changed, and even with AI, you have to still focus on getting revenue, and a lot of these other tasks will get simpler.
okay. And also, what advice would you give to business owners who want to stay ahead of these changes?
Just keep using as much as AI as you can.
Basic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's say this. If you had unlimited resources, what
But
problem?
AI doesn't mean get lost into whatever everything is doing. So there's chat GPT, okay, I'll also create an LLM. That doesn't matter. Already so many LLMs. Right? AI means what problem are you having? Can you solve it? Can you simplify it? Okay. If you were having cooking, can you let AI do it meaningfully for you? It's a problem to be solved. This is not solved today.
Yeah.
Okay. Theoretically, there is all these pieces AI can see. It can tell this is an egg, this is salt, this is that, da, 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 right? It can move. Robotics can also move their things in a way, right? But do we have robots cooking in our houses? No. Do we have a robo vacuum cleaner? Yeah. There are these disc-like vacuum cleaners which are actually more efficient. Many people are buying that. So that's a more niche, specific adoption of AI, and that's a very good thing. Okay, that's what every business should be looking for. Very genuine problems which people have not probably thought about using AI in that.
Okay. And for example, let's take this scenario. If you had unlimited resources, what problem would you solve first?
The biggest problems that we have are humans only. People think healthcare is a problem. It's not. Okay. Many of the problem on our planet, like cancer and all these, are actually created by consumption of chemicals or certain lifestyles. Okay. So these are problems that are created by us for us, right? For example, recently my father-in-law got a heart attack. Okay. And we went and checked, and he didn't have cholesterol, and he's actually more fitter than me. He does yoga in the morning, and he doesn't eat junk food at all. He eats home food. Yes, he is 55. Okay. But that does not mean he can get an heart attack. That assumption is wrong.
Yeah.
It didn't exist 50 or 100 years ago. Okay, so he went through the angiography and angioplasty, and then later on we found out that there was actually calcium deposits in his arteries. Okay, and then we asked, where is this calcium coming from? And the doctor said it's probably coming from your diabetes medication. It's like, okay, diabetes is a very mild problem to solve, right?
Yeah.
Compared to a heart attack, right? If you're a small problem, which by the way is not fixed, right? He keeps
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
taking, it's not gone, is causing bigger problems, then there is a problem with the whole medicine
Yeah.
as a system,
Right.
right? So healthcare is solved. I mean, people think, oh my God, AI can solve cancer. No, humans can solve cancer. Cancer was created by humans, or a lot of these other things around it. Energy, we have infinite energy. There is absolutely no shortage of energy. There is no shortage of oil on the planet. There is no shortage of solar on the planet. There is no shortage of nuclear on the planet. There is so much energy that you can keep sitting in your car and traveling around the earth forever and still not spend it. Okay? We are learning to utilize it sustainably. Okay, so anything all these bigger country politics and all you try to get, no, we have enough of it. Okay, there'll be more entrepreneurs finding more oil across the world, and I predict in the next 50 years, oil is gonna become super normally available. Like the cost of oil have already gone down. They'll keep going down massively. Okay, what else? I think energy and this are one of the biggest things. We do not have scarcity of any kind. If there's a scarcity, that is only of the human mindset. Okay, I think yes, there are too many people on the planet, and I agree with Elon Musk that some of us should go on to exploring other planets. Okay, that will create more space, I feel,
Right.
mental space at least.
Okay. And as we wrap up, what's next for GPUnet? Any exciting developments on the horizon?
So we are gonna launch our token soon.
Okay.
So that's the most exciting thing actually coming up
Okay.
soon.
That's really great. And for listeners who want to learn more or potentially work with GPUnet, what's the best way to get in touch?
You can follow us on our Twitter slash GPUNET. I think that's the best way. That's the place where we are most active. We might also be on YouTube or other places, but more difficult to track across all the social channels.
Okay. Okay. So thank you for sharing these insights about you and about your company and about the whole story. And thank you for this amazing podcast session.
Sure, Alex. Likewise.
Good. So, see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.